The smoke alarm wasn't ringing yet, but the faint, metallic scent of burning wires curled through the hallway like a warning hand. The janitor, Daniel Reyes, sprinted across the marble floor of the Crystal Shore corporate tower, his boots slipping slightly on the polished surface as he reached the executive wing. Just seconds before the CEO, Eleanor Hale, pushed open the heavy mahogany door to her office, Daniel pressed his palm over her mouth and pulled her back, his arm trembling as he whispered the words that would change both of their lives, "Don't go inside." The door handle was warm, too warm. And inside, behind that door, was the dangerous truth Daniel had been trying to hide, the truth he had hoped no one would ever have to see. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us of humanity, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kind Tales to support more heart-touching content. Daniel Reyes had not always been a janitor. There was a time when he worked in construction management, earned a steady salary, and believed life had finally formed solid ground beneath his feet. But the world had a way of sliding open under him without warning. His wife's sudden passing from a rare heart complication left him alone with their 5-year-old daughter, Mariah, whose tiny chest bore the same genetic defect. Her doctors were clear: she needed careful medical supervision, expensive treatments, and one day, possibly, a transplant. Daniel sold everything he could, worked any job he found, and eventually took the janitorial position at Crystal Shore Tower, working nights so he could be home during the day for Mariah's frequent checkups. Every shift meant choosing between sleep and survival, but for her, he would have stayed awake for a lifetime. Inside the corporation, he blended into the background like a quiet shadow. Executives walked past him without turning their heads, interns rushed around him like he was a piece of furniture, and he never complained. Every night, he scrubbed floors, emptied bins, fixed small electrical issues, and prayed no one would question the extra medical supplies he sometimes carried in his backpack. Mariah's condition had been worsening in recent weeks, and the faint humming sound he kept hearing near the executive floor made him uneasy. Daniel reported it twice, but because he wasn't part of the engineering team, his warning was dismissed with polite indifference. They told him to focus on cleaning. But he knew what faulty wiring sounded like. He had spent years around construction sites. Something was wrong behind those walls. Eleanor Hale, the CEO, was nothing like the rumors that floated around her name. She wasn't cruel or arrogant, just distant, tired, and relentlessly driven. She had built the company from scratch after surviving her own childhood storms, poverty, illness, and the weight of always being her own support system. She worked late nights, often the only one left in the building alongside Daniel. But unlike the others, she always nodded when passing him, sometimes offering a brief, tired smile that seemed like it cost her more energy than a full meeting. Daniel appreciated it more than she would ever know. On the night everything happened, Daniel sensed the danger earlier than usual. The hum was louder, sharper, vibrating in a way that shifted the air. He closed his supply closet, followed the sound to the hallway outside Eleanor's office, and pressed his ear against the wall. Something crackled, something that had no business crackling. Panic wrapped itself around his spine. He rushed to find security, but no one was stationed nearby. His radio had died an hour earlier, and the building's maintenance team had already clocked out. That left only him. He was already running toward the office when he heard Eleanor's heels tapping down the hallway. She had returned unexpectedly, files tucked under her arm, exhaustion clouding her gaze. She reached for the door with the calm of someone who believed the world inside was safe. Instinct, fear, and a father's sharp awareness surged through Daniel, pushing him faster than he thought possible. He covered her mouth only because she gasped in surprise, and he needed her silent, needed her still, until he could explain. When she saw the terror shaking in his eyes, she stopped resisting. Behind the door, something sizzled. Then popped. Daniel pulled her back, shielding her with his body as smoke curled from the cracks along the doorframe like ghostly fingers. The wiring in the wall was overheating, and the entire office could ignite within minutes. Eleanor stared at the door, realization dawning slowly as she finally smelled what he had been sensing all night. The emergency systems hadn't activated yet, meaning the fire was hidden but growing. She understood then why he had touched her without permission, why he trembled like a man holding back the edge of disaster. What neither of them expected, however, was the sound that followed, the faint, fragile cough of a child. Eleanor's eyes widened. Daniel froze. He had tried so hard. He had sworn he would never bring Mariah to the building again. But that morning, her sitter had cancelled at the last second, her breathing had been stable, and he couldn't afford to lose another shift, not with her next treatment bill looming. He set up a small sleeping nest for her in Eleanor's empty meeting room earlier in the night, where she could nap safely under his watch. He checked on her every 15 minutes, every 5 when the hum grew stronger. But sometime in the last half hour, she must have wandered out, half asleep, looking for him. And she had gone toward the office with the warm, glowing handle. Eleanor didn't hesitate. She grabbed Daniel's arm, pulling him as he fumbled with the master key sheathing. Their breaths were thick with fear as the door opened to a wave of heat. Smoke billowed, dim and suffocating. The office lights flickered as though gasping for air. In the corner, curled against the couch with her small hands pressed to her chest, was Mariah. Her lips quivered, her breathing shallow. The heat was taking its toll on her fragile heart faster than it would on any adult. Daniel rushed forward,